Welcome, everybody. We are live. You got Mike Bovaird, Mike Malley, and welcome to another live podcast here where we're going to answer some of your questions, talk a little bit about industry news and new products coming out. We're also going to talk about some albums. I did bring in some albums for you guys, some music for you guys to check out because ultimately, yes, this is about music. So welcome to the show. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm great. It's been a very busy day, very busy week at Suncoast Audio.
It has.
And yeah.
It's always an adventure. See, Mike was in a bit of a car wreck.
I was.
Yeah.
I was. You know what? I don't even want to talk about it.
You don't want to talk about it?
It hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts me.
You know, these out-of-state drivers, they don't know the roads. But anyway, I'm sporting these lovely glasses here, as you can see, which I normally don't wear, but I got an eye infection on Friday night. I was out walking the dogs, and literally at 11:30 at night somebody hit me in my eye, and I was up all Friday night. It was watering, it was red, it was puffy, and the next morning I got up and called the eye doctor, an emergency number, and he was gracious enough to come in and see me early in the morning on Saturday. And it turned out that I had a hole in my cornea, and not to gross everybody out, but let's just say it was pretty bad. And it was sore, but I've been taking these antibiotics drops in my eyes, and it's been getting better. But I'll tell you, the funny thing is, at my age and losing, the ability to wear contact lenses, and then coming out of a air conditioned car and going into the hot Florida heat and the fog's up.
Yep.
I've managed to lose the little tiny bottle of drops. They give you the little tiny bottle.
You lost it?
I lost it, so I have to head over to the pharmacy after our podcast and get a refill. My wife's been troubling me all day about, did you get that refill? Did you get that? But we've been busy, so we'll get to it. I'm supposed to be doing it every hour, and it's probably been, I don't know, maybe 18 hours since the last drop. So if I'm wearing these next week, you know why. It was my own fault. But anyway,
so real quick, Mike, just so you know, everyone's saying the AV quality looks good. So Thank you, everyone, for the input on that. We were having issues earlier, so
Mike didn't feed the hamster this morning, so we were worried he wouldn't be in the wheel turning things. But
the internet hamster,
internet hamster. But anyway, while we're waiting for some questions to come in, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the albums. So I was mentioning last time we did this, and Michael tell me I have it at the wrong angle, and I need to tilt
forward. Perfect.
Okay. This is the Hugh Masekela Hope. This was the album I was referring to that I said, you've got to get it, especially if you have a turntable. I mean, the Analog Productions version, this is the 33 RPM.
Mm-hmm.
There is a 45 RPM version, which I have at home as well. But this is a must, an album you've just got to listen to. I mean, it's unbelievable. It was recorded live in, I believe it was 1994, I want to say. But this Analog Productions version is outstanding. And I know that even the digital is very good. There's, I think, a high-res version on Qobuz and perhaps Tidal as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you definitely want to give this album a listen to. The entire album is fantastic. Of course, everybody plays the Coltrane Stimela song, the last song on the second side. They play that the most. But really, a lot of the other songs are really good. It's sort of like the, what's the Nils Lofgren, the Keith Don't Go, but there's actually, other than being beat to death with, Keith Don't Go, there's actually some really good songs on that album as well.
Right, right. Good point.
If you have a turntable, the 33, the 45, whatever, you want to get the Analog Productions version. You want to make sure that you get the right one. This is a phenomenal album. I actually have this on master tape as well. So Chad Cassim at Analog Productions put this out on tape, and it's just mind-blowing. I have a Studer, I've got two Studer 810 reel-to-reels that were rebuilt by John French up in New Jersey, and they've since broken probably 15 times. We just shipped it out again, one of them out again. They break. Okay, they're old and they break. So if you don't have the patience for it breaking every few months, don't get into the whole reel to reel thing.
Yeah, just get the LP.
You just get the LP. So when people say, "Oh, vinyl's a pain," I'm just going to stick with my iPad. You definitely don't want to get into reel to reel. But having a Studer with updated electronics, the flux heads, and then the flux heads are wired to the external Doshi tape preamp. I mean, it's phenomenal. Nick Doshi builds an incredible tape preamp, and it sounds amazing. So I have this on master tape along with about 50 or 60 other master tapes that are really, really good.
You do.
I think you have to buy, if you're going to get into reel-to-reel, you need to buy 2 because one will always be broken. So that's the safe bet.
2 reel-to-reels.
Yeah.
Actual decks.
Actual decks.
Yep.
In fact, in one of the cases, one of the rollers, the rubber on the roller was so old it reverted back to its natural state, and it became really sticky.
Yep.
So I had to get a new pinch roller, and believe it or not, there are companies out there still making pinch rollers for old Studers. I think they're in Australia, but anyway, I ordered one and put it on, but it didn't quite fit. So when I got the pinch roller, this is how different this is in modern hi-fi. I had to get out fine sandpaper and take the rod, essentially where the pinch roller goes on, and file it down so that the new pinch roller would work. So yes, it's not for the faint of heart. It sounds amazing when it works, but it's not for the faint of heart.
Super tweaky.
Super tweaky. Another album I wanted to talk about was this classic. This is mid 1970s, 1974. This Gordon Lightfoot album, we won't get into the whole original. We won't get into
no comment.
No comment. But anyway, this album is fantastic, and this actually is all analog because it's from I think this was a 1978. It was a 74 recording, but I believe Mobile Fidelity did this in 1978. I'm not sure if I have my dates right, but it's pretty close. It was back in the 70s, and it wasn't far off from the original recording. But anyway, you definitely, even on digital, this is an album for the first song to the last song that's well worth listening to. And believe it or not, Gordon Lightfoot is still alive. He's, I don't know, well into his 80s, I believe, and I think he is even still touring, but phenomenal songwriter, very unique, distinctive voice. So I would give this a listen to, and this album is definitely an absolute winner. Last but not least,
you have another one.
Last but not least, I wanted to talk about Sade. Now, Sade is the name of the band. A lot of people think that the lady in the band is Sade, but it's actually the band is Sade. But anyway,
move the album over to your left a little bit, Mike. There you go.
If you are a fan of Sade, and if you love the first album, Diamond Life, this version is the Audio Fidelity limited edition. This is the version you want if you're collecting vinyl. I know everyone's going to complain it's very expensive. It is very expensive. This is actually a sealed copy. I actually have 2 copies, and this is a sealed copy.
I'll take it.
No, you won't. This is for when Fumble Fingers is putting the record on and drops it and scratches it. I have another copy. But
Audio Fidelity. They used to do SACDs. Maybe they still do.
Well, I bought these new, so I don't even remember when it was, to be honest with you. It was quite a while ago.
Had to have been.
Yeah, but anyway, this version of this album, you won't hear it better. I mean, the Sade box set, whether you have it on, Qobuz, Tidal, CD, whatever, you will not find a better copy than this version. This is the best sounding version that I've heard of this album, and as everyone knows, this is a great album. This put the band on the map, and I highly recommend it. Not a bad song on the album, and if you're looking for the best pressing, this one for sure. So anyway, I have 12,000 records, so we can do a lot of shows talking about music, but you'll see that a lot of people, I think, in audio are, they're really into the gear, and there's some YouTube channels out there where, it's a lot about the equipment and the cables and power conditioners and various things, and that's great. I am too. I'm really into. I'm a audio file nerd when it comes to these things, but I'm really a music guy too. And so when people say, what do you listen to? I listen to everything.
Yeah,
I mean, I was listening to, classical on the weekend, and a whole variety of different things, jazz, rock, doesn't matter. I listen to a lot of different music. So yeah.
Well, so I just picked up a copy of, it was from, I think Daddy Cool had it. It was an old 70s pressing MoFi of Dark Side of the Moon.
Wow.
And I've read about it. That it has the smiley face EQ curve and all that.
Right.
But when I got it, first off, it was cheap. It was not expensive because when you pull it out and you look at it, it looked dirty as all hell.
Really?
And so I'm like, maybe I'll take a gamble here. Kind of like what you did at the thrift store.
Yes, you got to clean them. You can't just put them on the table and play them. You got to.
I figured, why not?
Yeah.
And I have a degritter at home. I put it in the degritter on standard, regular setting.
Okay.
And
work your charm.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
It was incredible. It literally went from, I didn't play it all dirty. Yeah. But I'm assuming it was horrible. But it was perfect. It's perfect. There's I think one little bump, and that's it. Like a kind of a pressing defect, and that's it.
I think a lot of these, we have to give some credit to these ultrasonic record clean machines like the degritter. I think they've actually helped, energize the vinyl market to a degree.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy now. I mean, I remember back in the there's some older machines to clean records. What a pain. It was a pain in the ass. Now you just pop the record in, press start, walk away, you come back, it's perfectly clean, dry, ready to go. So I think those record clean machines are great. Shameless plug for the degritter. We do sell the degritter, but I think there's a lot of really good ones out there, and the degritter does an amazing job as well. And that's what I have as well.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. Another album, actually, this weekend before my reel to reel broke, I was listening to. I have a master tape copy. There was a company in Europe that was able to get the tapes of Cantante Domino. Now, if this is an album you're not familiar with, you definitely want to go look it up. But Cantante Domino, it's kind of a white background with a church. It's kind of like hand drawn, church. If you're not familiar with it. I mean, haunting. The vocals, the choir it will send chills down your spine. The music is, yes, there's some Christmas music, some religious music and whatnot, but the way it's recorded and how it sounds, I highly recommend seeking it out. There is a high-res download out there. There was a DSD 512, DSD 256. That one is also very, very good. I have the DSD 512 as well of Cantante Domino. So you want to check that out and give it a listen. It will definitely give you goosebumps, I promise.
Cantante Domino. I don't think I've even heard that one.
Yeah, it's a great album.
I may have. We do have our first question. Questions don't seem to be rolling in, but we do have viewers. So if anyone has any questions for us at all, just feel free to throw them in the chat. So first question comes from Michael Fryland. And he's just asking about the SACD market. Is the SACD market growing very slowly? That was his question.
Well, I would say it's shrinking from the days of its peak in the early 2000s, mid 2000s. I think, when Sony was behind SACD and there was titles coming out left, right, and center, I think the market was, really growing and had a chance. Of course, we had, as we always do with Sony, a competing format, which was DVD audio, if you remember that. So people were, well, do I buy a DVD audio player or do I buy an SACD player? And there was very few machines that would do both formats. So it created a, VHS versus beta war again. Typical Sony. That's the way they do it. Yeah. That being said, SACD did, in the end, win, if you will, because there's no more DVD audio out there. So there's Blu-ray audio, but there's not really new albums coming out on DVD audio. So SACD did win in the end, and I think it was fueled in part by the obsession and passion for DSD, because as you know, SACD is based on DSD. So I think the SACD market is, there's new titles coming. You know, Analog Productions puts out SACDs, Mobile Fidelity puts out SACDs. There's a few others out there that are putting out Super Audio CDs. I collect them. So not to give away my secrets, but I do occasionally, usually once a week, look on eBay, and you'll find people dumping them. I bought an entire SACD collection of Living Stereo, the RCA. There was probably 40, 50, 60 CDs, all classical. But the guy wanted like $20 for all of them. Like, just get rid of them. You know, this was probably, I'm going to say 3 years ago, when nobody was talking about SACD and things like that. So there are deals to be had, but even the new SACDs today are only what, $30, you know, and they sound great. I mean, I've purchased the Abraxas on SACD. I've purchased a bunch on SACD, and they sound great, you know, really good. So, it's harder and harder to find SACD players though today. Right. So
we get requests for it
all the time. You know, with Oppo kind of getting out of the game and Esoteric really not OEMing the drives much, you're left with a few players. You know, you've got your Esoteric and your Luxman and maybe a handful of others that are out there, but there's very few. And I think really and true, I think Esoteric and to a lesser extent Luxman are really dominating that CD SACD market. And we still have a lot of customers that really, they don't want to stream. They have a CD and an SACD collection and they want to utilize it. So they want to have a hard format. And so for them, the SACDs make sense. So the Esoteric, the KO3XD, the KO1XD. I have at home the Grandioso K1X with the PS1 from Esoteric, which is the external power supply, and the clock. And I use the Omega, Shinyado Omega clock cables, and then I use an Render N30. So kind of a really shitty digital setup, as you can tell. No,
that's about the best it can possibly be.
Pretty good setup. And really the biggest reason I went with the Esoteric is that I have a huge selection of CDs and SACDs, and I wanted to be able to play them. So that was one of the reasons why I went with that system over something else for my home. But you know, it's also it also sounds great. The new Esoteric, like the KO3XD and the KO1, if you haven't heard it, you got to give it a listen. It is totally unlike the older Esoteric, which was based on the AKM 4497 chip and some of the other AKM chips. This new master discrete technology that they've built in-house, it is amazing. And I tell the story all the time that when we first got the first product, which was the KO3XD in the store, we set it up and we pressed play and we were listening to a CD, and I swear to God, we had something out of phase because I was hearing stuff way over here, and it was unreal.
It was.
And then we went back to another CD player we had in the store, and it was flat, two-dimensional. I said, no, we've got something wrong. And we checked all the cables, went back, listened again. Again, it was this three-dimensional wraparound sound, and it was phenomenal. So right there and then I was sold on the new Master Discrete Tech from Esoteric. Really, really, really good. And the KO3XD, you know, is the sort of entry point. They may not come out with a model below that. I don't really know. There might be a KO5XD. I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. But right now, the KO3XD is the entry point for getting that technology. And Esoteric has continued putting that tech into the NO5XD, which is their entry-level all-in-one streamer, DAC, volume control, headphone amp, you know, everything. Yeah.
Killer value.
Killer product. Amazing. And then if you're the ultimate streamer kind of guy, and you're looking at the Esoteric products, the NO1XD is their current top of the line, you know, all out streamer. It's really, really, really phenomenal. Adding the clock, I think, you know, does a lot to the Esoteric products. For me at home, it did. So I'm clocking the Arender using a 75 ohm BNC connection, and then I'm clocking the Esoteric using a 50 ohm BNC connection. And so they're all clocked together, all off the same master clock. So yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, and by the way, DSD, in my opinion, is the best digital format.
I completely agree. And I remember there was such a war going on for years about DSD versus PCM, and oh my gosh, but I think we've all figured out that the DSD just sounds better at the end of the day. And it really, really does. And the SACDs that are built on DSD, they sound phenomenal. So, and you can get some really, there's a website, I think it's SACD Japan or something. It's something like that. Anyway, I forget. Just Google SACD Japan. There's a website, and it's like they just sell SACDs. And
it's much bigger in Japan.
Yeah, it's much bigger in Japan, but there's some really good SACDs there. And I've bought some beauties like Dire Straits, some others that sound phenomenal. Yeah.
Okay, so the same gentleman who asked that question, he just had mentioned that the Marantz still have their SA10, which is still said to be good.
Yes, the Marantz, and I think you and I heard. Was it the Marantz that we heard with those little Polk audio speakers at Exponent?
I think it was.
Holy cow, that sounded amazing. I mean, if you're on a budget. Those little Polk Audio something 200s, RS 200, I forget the R 200, something like that. Little Polk Audio speakers, and then they had, I believe, it was a Marantz integrated amp with a SACD player. Sounded phenomenal, really good.
Yeah, that's the ultimate budget setup.
Yeah, if you're starting out and you're on a budget, that was amazing. Yeah.
All right, so we have from the username is random. He just wants to know what's new in the store.
Well, we have some on the way. I just filled out the customs documents. By the way, I had to fill out all these customs documents. They were yelling at me to get these back within 24 hours. I filled them out, sent them in, and then they told me, oh, we already have you on file as an importer. So all of this paperwork I spent like 2 hours doing, which I knew they had, but they didn't know they had until they put this in the system, and they said, oh, we already have all this. Of course we do, because we import the block audio and some other things. But anyway, we have a pair of speakers on the way from Claris's Audio, which is a speaker company out of Switzerland that looks just like Apogee's, and they have a little baby minuet speaker. They have all varieties, like all sizes, all budgets, and we're really excited to be getting those. They should be arriving maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. It's custom, so who knows? But they come in flight cases, and it's a 2-person job to put them together because they're big, heavy panels, external crossovers, obviously. And we're looking forward to getting those in. But the ones we got coming in are the Studio Plus. They retail for approximately $35,000 a pair, and they have amazing specs. They're nowhere near as crazy hard to drive as the old Apogees, and they have full range, and they reportedly are very, very good. I've not heard them, but I have a lot of dealer friends in Europe, and they've been raving about these speakers to me and insisted I try them out. We didn't buy them. The manufacturer was kind enough to ship them to me, and we'll be giving them a listen and see how they sound. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So what just came in that you didn't know about?
The Solution 725 we took on trade?
Not that.
Oh, not the Solution 725. Okay.
Not that.
The D'Agostino amps we took on trade?
Not those either.
Okay. What?
So, we picked up Hi-Fi Rose. The RA180 came in.
Oh, so it came in today?
The
amp?
It did.
Did you fire it up?
Not yet.
Okay, so we have that brand new, the Rose. What is the model number? The 180?
RA180. Yeah.
RA180. So the new Rose integrated, which uses the GAN technology, which we heard at Capitol, I think.
Yes.
At Capitol Audio Fest, and we loved it. It was phenomenal. So we're really excited to get this integrated in. It's kind of got that punk look, and
steampunk
look, and Yeah, I mean, great combination. Put that with a pair of Fynes, and you're off to the races. Yeah.
With that, Hi-Fi Rose streamer, and you're good to go.
Yeah. Right now, we're actually planning on the Florida Audio Expo, so we're trying to figure out what we're showing and who we're showing with, and it's a lot to pull together because you got the rack manufacturers, the cable manufacturers, DACs, analog speakers, amps. And you got to kind of pull it all together. And we have 2 rooms, so we have to kind of think about different systems. But the Florida Audio Expo will be, what's that?
At least 2 rooms. Who knows?
Yeah, there might be a third. There might be a third room. We keep getting pulled, like this, into the doing some more rooms. But I want to kind of just keep it as 2 rooms. It's pretty much all we can manage from our standpoint and do the show stuff. So yeah.
So we have a question here from a gentleman by RG.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to know, have we had the chance to listen to the new Lin organic DAC topology? And if so, any thoughts and insight you might share? So I don't think we had.
Yes, we do. Yes, we have.
That was the organic?
That was the organic. That the top of line DAC is the Climax or whatever it's called. So anyway, we did. Lynn was kind enough to send it to us, and we got to play with it for several weeks. Maybe was it June we got it? I want to say
roughly.
Yeah. Anyway, and we had differences of opinion.
We did.
Mike loved it.
I loved it.
So much information. It was like 8K television. It was like, wow. And it was just right out there. I felt it was a little bit overload for the senses, and I didn't. It was just too much for me. There was nothing wrong. There was nothing that stood out that it was like bright or, sibilant or anything like that. But for me, it was just like, I found it a little hard to relax because there was so much information coming at you. It was like super high definition, and it didn't create that sort of, ME, the musical engagement for me. But Mike, he thought it was one of the best he'd ever heard. He loved it. It was incredible sounding. He loved the definition. Well, why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, well, I found it to be very unique. It was just like unlike any DAC that I've ever heard, or DAC technology that I've ever heard. It was so open, and just what it was doing with the bass and all of that. I didn't realize that a DAC technology could do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, everything that I'd heard prior to that, we've had like Meitner and stuff like that, and we've got the MSB, esoteric, all that stuff. I just never heard a DAC do that. This. The separation was just incredible. And you're right. It's like it was like 8K compared to 4K. It just blew me away.
There's so much definition in that streamer. It's 39,000. Well, the one we're talking about, I know that the organic technology from Lin is going to be put in some of their lesser expensive streamers, probably very soon. But the one we heard was the top of the line, $39,000 retail, and beautiful design, beautiful screen. There was nothing about it in that respect. But I just didn't know, it wasn't that, my reference point is sort of the Studers, the reel-to-reel, the tape,
that's true,
the vinyl. That's sort of my reference point of what I'm looking for. To me, the MSB gives me that.
Yeah.
The esoteric is close to that, but it gives you some other things, the 3-dimensionality and things like that. So for me, that's what I was really looking for. And I don't know. I mean,
it's completely
cool company,
unique.
Great company, great people. They couldn't have been nicer, super friendly, and they were really wanting us to be a Lin dealer, but I didn't fall in love with that particular product. We had the active speakers in the store. Everybody knows the Lin LP12 is a great product, so there was no sense bringing it in. Rick has one. If you watch our other show, Rick Miller, that's here, there was no sense bringing that table in, but I wanted to see their other products and what they were like. So we were able to bring in their entry-level streamer, the second one from the bottom, and the active speakers and the top of the line streamer, but I just wasn't wowed. It's not a knock. It's just that as a dealer, I have to believe in it. I have to be passionate about it. That's the way you best sell. I mean, there's two sets of dealers. There's the guy that says, I'm going to bring in Martin Logan, Macintosh, X, Y, and Z because that sells. Okay? That's not me. I bring in the products that I love, that I buy, that I want to take home. And that's the way I feel that my customers would want. I don't just say, I'm going to bring these products in because that's what everyone buys. Yeah. That's the wrong approach. I bring in the products that I love. Now, it doesn't mean that one product has to be better than another. It doesn't mean that this one has to beat this one, but they have to be, you know, products that you would be happy bringing home. And that's it at the end of the day. It's like, I like the Aqua DAC for what it does, but I love the MSB DAC. I like the Esoteric DAC, but I love the Lumens for what they do and their price point. So you have to love all of the products because it comes through when you're talking to people and they're in your store, you're on the phone, that body language comes through. And if you don't believe it, you're like, oh yeah, these are good. Yeah, sure. No, that's not going to convince people. So you really need to believe it. And if you don't believe it, then you don't sell it. And that's just been my approach.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one big thing that's made Suncoast Audio so successful is that philosophy.
That and always being honest with customers. I had a gentleman call me yesterday and he wanted the Fyne 704s in the worst way. And I kept saying to him, it's too big for your room. Now I could have said, oh yeah, man, you'll have a rock concert in your room. It's going to be amazing. That's the wrong approach. The right approach is to say, based on the dimensions of your room, based on what you're telling me, based on where your listening position is, this is a better fit for your room. The 702 or the 703. 704s are behemoth speakers. They're massive. Yeah. And for his size of room, it would have overpowered the room and he wouldn't have been happy. So we just went through this with another gentleman. I tried to convince him that the DB11 was going to be too big for his room, the Karma DB11. Yeah. Oh, no, he was having no part of it. I wouldn't sell it to him. I told him the DB9 is the right speaker for your room, not the DB11. What did he do? He found somebody to sell him a pair of DB11s, called me and said, guess what? They're too big for my room. Right. So, you know, that's what we always try to do. And sure, the easy thing is to say, yeah, you know, sell the bigger speaker, sell the bigger amp. But if it's not the right situation for the person, then you can't be doing that.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so our next questions come from IMO. He wants to know, what subwoofer and size do you recommend with the Wilson Audio Tuntot speakers in a medium-sized room?
In my opinion...
In your opinion.
IMO. In my opinion. Anyway.
IMO. Yeah, IMO, that's his opinion question.
So the Tuntots I have heard, we're not Wilson dealers, so I believe there are Wilson subwoofers that match. That being said, as I've mentioned on previous podcasts, my favorite subwoofers are from Bowers & Wilkins, the DB1D, the DB2D, the 3D, and the 4D. And I love them because they have built-in room correction, built-in DSP, and you use your iPhone to calibrate them. You literally put your iPhone on the subwoofer, launch the app, press go, and it will calibrate the subwoofer to your room, to the mains, but more importantly, to where you put it in the room. So if I got a table here and I got something here, I have to put it there, no problem. It doesn't care where you put it. It will calibrate to that. So I like that. And as I've mentioned previously, I actually have 4 of them, 4 DB1Ds in my 14 by 20 room at home. And they're all just doing a little bit. They're barely working. And you know what? I can't tell they're on. I still to this day swear they're not on and checked. I think I checked on the weekend. I was like, I can't hear it. Yeah. But you know it's there the second you turn it off. And you can turn it off from your phone. You can calibrate it from your phone. You can sit there from your chair and you can adjust the EQ. You can do so many different things. I just think they're incredible. I mean, I think that's what's missing from a lot of the subwoofers that are on the market. They'll have adjustments, but maybe it's with a remote or whether it's on the back of the subwoofer and you got to keep getting up, and they really don't tune. And that's what this DSP technology does so well, is it tunes it to the room. And that's the hardest part.
In 5 minutes.
Yeah, in 5 minutes. Yes, super fast. You'll hear all these signal sweeps and all this other business going on. And then when it's done, you'll be like, great, perfect. And it will show you a chart at the end, a graph, and it will show you what adjustments it made to not only your room, but where you put it in your room.
Correct. So. Yeah. So we don't have any questions past that at the moment. Cindy popped in and she just said she loves listening to us. But yeah, I don't know. What do you want to talk about, Mike?
What do we want to talk about? Was there any additional industry news? There's those new KEF speakers, which are all active, right? What are they called?
Yeah, they're the KEF Blade Metas, if I recall correctly.
So again, we've talked a little bit about active speakers, and Avant-Garde's their entire new lineup, the Uno, the Uno, the Duo, the Trio, and of course the Zero. They're all come with the ability to be fully active. So that's something we're seeing. I never thought that horn speakers would be the first to be, or one of the first to be going active in our store, but they are. So we're excited to get the new Duos in. There's 2 levels of Duos for the Avant-Gardes. One is like a smaller Duo, which will have the bigger horn, but 1 bass driver. And then there'll be the bigger Duo, which has the Duo horn and 2 bass drivers. So again, a lot will depend on the size of your room, but the bigger horn takes away the honkiness, the horn coloration. So when you get to a smaller horn, it starts to sound like this. When you get to a bigger horn, it's more like that. So that's the advantage to go for the bigger horn, but maybe the smaller bass driver, the single bass driver, if you have a smaller room. So you'll get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I don't even think, now that I'm reading about these KEFs, it doesn't even look like they're active.
I thought they were. I thought I read there they were.
I know because they have the LS50 metas that are active, but
I thought they came out with some skinny, tall floor standers
that's the Blade.
There's the Blade, but there's another one that was more of a traditional looking speaker. It was very tall and thin, and it had I thought they were active, but
well, I'm sure they probably do. I mean,
okay.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
Looking at other industry news, why don't we?
We don't want to touch on the mobile fidelity situation.
Yeah, we won't talk about.
That's been beat to death.
Yeah,
Plus, I've said before, I don't really care. They sound great. The albums sound good, so I don't really care. Some of them sound really, really good, like the best I have in my collection of that particular album.
Agreed.
And like I've said, Bridge Over Troubled Waters, the Simon Garfunkel. I don't have anything better. I haven't heard a better version. So some of them aren't quite as good. I think the Kevin Gray, Marvin Gaye album, I think is better than the One Step. I have both. I've gone back and forth, and I kind of like the Kevin Gray version a little bit better. But again, look at Santana Abraxas. I mean, that's the best version I have in my collection. And believe me, I brought it when it was new. It was $99, I believe. And I was bitching and moaning to anybody that would listen. I can't believe I just spent $100 on a record.
Yeah, I remember.
And it went up to several thousand in value,
Yeah, they only made 2,400 copies of that.
2,400, yeah.
Which is insane.
Sounds amazing. But so does the SACD from Mobile Fidelity, which you can still buy for $29 today.
Yeah, man, it's
sounds great.
The same master.
Yeah, sounds really, really good.
So something else pretty interesting, actually. So you remember we mentioned we got the Boulder 812 in. That was a little while back.
Yep.
There's a really, really good review on highfidelity.pl covering just a ton of info on
Is
the
that the
812.
website that gives a rating at the end?
Let's see if there's a rating.
Or is that another one I'm thinking of?
I don't even think there's a rating. It's just so in depth. And I mean, I'm going to sit back and read this whole thing after this because there's a lot of stuff that I didn't even know about. The 812 I love. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's funky. It's very small in size. I mean, it's probably yay big. It's about this big.
Yeah.
Maybe by that deep and that high. It's got a removable faceplate where I think they have the headphone jacks and stuff. Sounds great. I mean, it really, really does. We pair it with the 1161, which is the smaller Boulder amp, but I think they'll probably come out with an amp to match this 861 or 851, 861, 851.
What?
The
Integrated?
new amp that they're going to come out with.
Oh, the new one?
Yeah, probably like an 851 or 861. Probably let's just say 861 or something. I don't know what they'll call it. Anyway, but to go with the 812, they're going to probably come out with a little amp, and I think that'll be really terrific. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So okay, we got another question.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that 812 is awesome. I agree. Another one from In My Opinion. What do you think of the MSB DAC compared to the what is it? Area Surratt?
Airy Surratt?
Or Surratt?
Well, unless I'm mistaken, is the Airy Surratt tube? I honestly don't remember. I know they make some beautiful tube amps and some beautiful equipment. I've listened to the full Airy Surratt system, even the speakers, the crazy looking speakers on the stands and the wheels, and I mean, their stuff sounds phenomenal. It really did sound beautiful. It's got a gorgeous kind of romantic sound.
Oh, I've heard this too.
But I think for me, when I look at the Airy Surratt DAC, it's kind of large. It's a very large footprint that it has. I like the aesthetic of the MSB better, first of all, but I know. Modern. Yeah, but I also love the sound of the MSB. Like I've said many times, to me, it's not overly euphonic, like a tube DAC can be. It's just right, and it matches the tonality and richness of my Studer and my Kronos very, very well. And that's my benchmark, and that's why the MSB and to a lesser extent, the Esoteric is right there. Now the Esoteric, as I mentioned, has some other features, very three-dimensional, incredible definition, but still got that density, that meat on the bones, and you can really tweak the Esoteric to your environment because it has so many filters that you can use, all kinds of different filters across the different categories. So you got upsampling, you've got timing filters, you've got a number of different things, and you can tweak it and get it just right for your system. But for me, the MSB is sort of that's the benchmark, that's the ultimate. And all the MSB DACs sound very similar. You just get more of that sound.
That's the best part.
As you move up. And there's something that nobody talks about.
Right.
Even MSB.
I know what you're getting at.
They have a 100% upgrade policy. So if you buy the MSB Discrete, and let's just say you're talking to us and we recommend the second power supply and the whatever module, the Pro USB or the Room module, whatever you want to get. And let's just say, for argument's sake, it's $16,000 for easy math. That's not the exact number. Let's just say for easy math, it's 16 grand. And then you're going along, you're loving it. 6 months later, a year later, you want to upgrade to the Premier. Well, MSB will give you 100% credit back for returning your Discrete to upgrade to the Premier. Hello. Yeah. That's a no-brainer. So
what other company does that?
I don't know. We have had so many people take advantage of that. So many people go from Discretes to Premiers or Discretes to References. We've had a load of people go from References to Selects. We had a ton of people upgrade because it's a no-brainer. You know, none of the other competitors don't do that. DCS doesn't do that, as far as I know, and neither does the boombox looking DAC. So none of those companies do that. So hats off to MSB. They've really, tapped into something, except I don't think they pitch it enough, in my opinion.
Right.
And before you ask, no, you can't buy the one that's get traded in. I get that all the time. Oh, can you call me if somebody trades in and upgrades?
Right.
Because they actually take those, they refinish it, they refurbish it, whatever. They turn them into demo samples, they turn them into show samples, dealer demos, whatever they do with it.
It's not like they're getting a DAC a day,
No, exactly. Exactly. It's once in a blue moon. But I always say to people, you could start with the Premier and enjoy it, and you're going along and you get a bonus at work, or your Bitcoin's doing great, or whatever the deal is, and you want to upgrade to the reference DAC, no problem. Yeah. You're going to get 100% of your money back. It's a no-brainer. So I think it's a great deal.
Yep, I agree.
So, but on the question of the Aries Syrah, it's a very large, if you haven't heard it or seen it, it's a very large footprint. I'm not sure it would fit in my rack at home, but, you know, I've always said the Aries Syrah systems, they sound very nice, very euphonic, very romantic sounding, very musical. I don't have anything to say. I don't care for the aesthetic, but that's really just, that's it.
That's personal preference.
Yeah.
Okay. So RG asks, any takes on the new Fyne Vintage 12 speakers? And do you think Fyne is tailoring to a different market group, sonically speaking?
Well, Mike and I have been having this discussion ad nauseum since they've announced the Vintage Classic series. I'm hesitant to bring in a pair, not because I know they won't be great. I know they'll be great. But this is Florida. You know, it's Miami, it's Art Deco, it's palm trees and beaches and lots of wicker. You know, I mean, it's not. I see that kind of speaker being more popular in the Northeast, you know, possibly the aesthetic.
Or like a mid-century modern home, maybe something along those lines.
You know, if you're living up in New Hampshire or Maine or Connecticut or Pennsylvania, I can see that being very popular. That aesthetic, that tannoy-ish looking box.
That's what it is.
I think it's going to be great. I'm hoping, in fact, we had this conversation today with the distributor, and I'm hoping they'll bring a pair to the Florida Audio Expo, assuming that they're ready and they have a pair that they can show. I think it would be great to hear those at the Florida Audio Expo paired with a VAC tube amp, maybe. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Maybe that would be good.
It'd be a perfect pairing.
Look, the VAC equipment has that, you know, beautiful classic look. I think there'll be some new things coming from VAC that, you know, might be ready for the Florida show, and they would pair well with the Fyne. So we'll see. I mean, everything's early. It's still 6 months away till the show, but I think that would be a terrific pairing. But to answer your question, I think they're offering two flavors. I think there's a lot of people that love the current Fyne lineup, the 502 SP, best value in the lineup, the 702, 703. I love the 703. I love the F112. I mean, the F18 is probably the best looking little monitor I've ever seen.
Agreed.
That maybe in some early Sonos Faber, like the Amati.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, it was beautiful. Those Italians, I tell you.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, those Italians. Anyway, so to answer your question, I think they're going after a different group, a different buyer, someone who wants something more classic, and they're going to have a 15-inch and a 12-inch, and you know they're going to have, you know, big classic looking, you know, Fyne audio speakers, and I think there's going to be a segment that of the population that will go for that. They'll like that more classic look, you know, the more traditional, if you will. So remains to be seen. But what we bring into the store in Florida, I have to kind of make sure it's going to go with the Florida market. You know, some things go really, really well here, but not so well up north, you know, and vice versa. So we have to really gauge it.
Yeah, I've had people ask about them, but I mean, yeah,
they're fine. They'll be great. And you know what?
Exactly.
You know, the other thing about Fyne, everyone thinks that they're going to be kind of shouty. They're going to be, it's a horn. It's bright. I get this question all the time. This is the exact opposite of what you think they'll sound like is what they sound like after 100 hours.
Yep.
They're smooth. They're beautiful sounding.
They are
very, very good.
They're incredible.
Yeah.
They blew my mind when I first heard them. I didn't know that much.
The 502 SP is still probably the best bang for the buck in the Fyne lineup. Yeah. And the 702 is probably your and I's favorite for a normal size room.
Yep, absolutely.
703, great speaker. And then you got the F1 series. I mean, there's so many great options.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge fan of Fyne.
Yeah.
Great value still.
Great value.
All right. So Cindy asked, do we have any preference when it comes to the Riga turntables in general?
You know, Cindy, we really think that you should just scrap all this vinyl analog stuff and get a DAC.
Yeah,
that's really what we think.
Just start streaming.
No. Do we have a preference? I love the P3. I bought one for my dad before he passed away. I thought that was a great turntable. I think it's a great entry point. And nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Don't wait. If you're thinking of getting a Riga P3, don't wait.
Yeah, the P3
nudge,
with the exact.
Yeah, with the exact. Don't wait. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Jump on that sooner rather than later. And I think that's a great table. If I'm getting started, the P3 with the exact for now is the best value going. My favorite, I love the P10. I think the P10 is amazing. But the best value in that upper side of the Rigas, I love the P8. We have the P8 in the store, and I think it gets you nipping at the heels of the P10. It's not quite as resolving, but I think the P8 is a terrific turntable. Now, the P6 is more classic looking, like the P3.
Sure.
And I think you can't really go wrong. P1, if you're starting out, if you're like, well, I'm going to buy my daughter a table so she can play her Billie Eilish records, whatever. The P1 will be fine. But I would encourage you, if you're a serious listener, to start at the P3 or higher. That's really where you're going to get the best sound. And the Riga phono stages are really small, and they sound great, and they're quiet, very adjustable, sound awesome.
Agreed.
And when the good thing about the Riga, you don't really need to worry about what arm am I going to get, what cartridge do I get. It's all package, and it works as a system, and it works better than if you're trying to monkey around and pick your own cartridge and pick your own arm and do all that stuff. It just works. Spend the money on records and don't have the headaches of trying to do that. Once you get above the Rigas, above the 10K, 20K, then we can start talking about Kuzmas. And the options are endless when we start talking about the Kuzma.
Yeah, they just continue and continue.
Oh my gosh. And they sound so good. And the VPIs, I mean, sort of in between that Riga and Kuzma, you've got VPI, and you've got the Prime Signature, and you've got the, the Avenger, and you've got so many great turntables from VPI. Yeah. And the options for the gimbal or the Unipivot as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I still think, in my opinion, the best turntable, it doesn't matter where you start in the Kuzma lineup. No. Even if you start with like the Sabi, it's so good. It's so, and the Stogie S arm. Yep. Doesn't matter what length. Doesn't matter. Anything from Kuzma is going to be outstanding. Yep. Those are the best tables probably in the industry, in my opinion.
Yeah. And the other tables we have in the store, we have the Avid, but the Avids are suspended. So, the table's very bouncy. So you want to be on a concrete slab. You don't want to be on a subfloor over a garage, or, you don't want a spongy floor, because the minute you put the album on and walk back to your chair, it's going like this and it's skipping. So you definitely want to, that's a table I would consider. If I'm on a concrete slab, I'm definitely getting one of those.
An Avid.
I have an Avid at home, and I do have a subfloor. I have to walk very gently. Yeah. So it sounds great. So suspended turntable is going to give you a slightly different sound than a non-suspended turntable. It's got more decay, more air. May give up a little bit on the bass, but it's got a little bit more air and decay. So, it's a great turntable. If you're on a concrete slab and you listen to a lot of classical music, man, it's a really, really good turntable for sure.
All right. We've got a question from another one from Michael Freeland. He's just asking, is Florida a big audiophile state?
Well, that's a great question. We have a good audiophile society. I mean, the guys that run it, Alan and some of the other folks, they do a great job. I mean, they really do. We've got approximately 150 members in Tampa, approximately 50 members in Sarasota area at the Sarasota Club. That's an active group. In terms of customers, I would say, there's certainly people in our area from, north of Tampa, Orlando, down to Naples, up and down the West Coast. We do get a lot of people that make the drive from the East Coast to come and see us. So to answer your question, I would say it's good, but I wouldn't say it's the biggest audiophile community. There's probably bigger ones in New York or California, maybe up in Massachusetts area, they may have bigger groups, but we have a good group of folks.
Oh yeah.
And we become very close with the people locally. You know, they come in, we talk about different things, and they love to talk audio, and so do we. So yeah, absolutely. I think we're planning on in the Mike and Rick podcast and having one of our customers actually come on. He's locally here, and he's a tweak nut.
Yes, he is.
If there's a fuse or a isolation device or a switch or anything, he's tried it, and he loves the tweaky stuff, so he's going to be a good one to have.
Yeah, he'll be talking for days. He'll give us plenty of content.
Yeah, he loves to talk about the tweaks.
Really good guy.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one comes from Joe L. And he wants to know this new product by MSB, the MSB controller. What does it do? What's the price, and what level DAC does it go with?
So it's called the Digital Director. It's something that MSB has been working on for a long time. So what MSB has basically said is that we don't know how good their DAC can sound, because some people are hooking it up to a MacBook Pro. Some people are hooking it up to an Arender. Some people are hooking up to a Takeo. Some people are hooking up to something else. So, and they're all using different inputs. Somebody might be using AES-CBU or SPDIF or USB or whatever. Somebody may have crappy power. It goes on and on. They might have crappy cables that they're using. So what MSB sought out to do was to essentially eliminate and neutralize that variance of the input going into the DAC. So according to MSB, we have not had our hands on one yet, but we're very excited to.
Yeah.
It will essentially make all of the inputs sound the same. So whether you're using USB or SPDIF or AES-CBU or whatever your favorite connection is, they will all be at a level playing field, and then going fiber optically to the DAC. So that's number one, that it's to create a level playing field for the inputs. Okay. So we'll see. Does that mean if you're using a $99 Raspberry Pi, will it sound the same as a $30,000 server? I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know yet.
We don't know. Does it mean if you're using a Hewlett Packard USB cable, it'll sound the same as a $2,000 cable? We don't know. We haven't played with it. We're going to see. We'll put it through its tests and we'll see what makes a difference and what doesn't. The other thing it does is that it creates more area, more space for FPGA, for more programming, for more software updates, for more ability to tweak and improve the sound and the features and the functionality. So that's the second thing that it does.
Yeah, the FPGA, for people that don't know, an FPGA is essentially, you can turn it into anything you want.
Right.
So they can do whatever they want with it. And it just opens up so many doors, I think, for all of the DACs. It's going to be so cool, hopefully, to see what they end up doing.
I think Mike and I remain cautiously optimistic. Let's just say that. We'll see.
I don't think they'd come out with this if they've
been working on it for so long.
Right.
And that's the thing that gets me, is that there's two schools of thought. Well, we're going to build our own $50,000 server and it's going to feed the DAC, and we're going to do this and that. Or, then you're stuck with, what software? Are you stuck with limitations of Roon, and you're stuck with this software or that software, or building your own software, right? I mean, you've got those challenges if you go in that direction, right? And then supporting that and maintaining that software and updating it and keeping everything current. Or you can say to people, use whatever you want, and we're going to kind of neutralize it and have it sound the same or as good as a certain benchmark, create a certain level of performance. And that's the direction they've gone. So we're really excited. So if you're an MSB owner and you have a Pro USB module in the back of your DAC, you take it out, you put it into the Digital Director, and you're off to the races.
Yeah.
In terms of the cost, I don't have the pricing in front of me right now. So there's going to be two versions. There's going to be a version, the reference version. They're both the same, identical inside. The only difference is that the reference version will match the reference DAC chassis, and the select version will match the select DAC chassis. And so basically it's like a beveled aluminum finish if you've seen the select. So that's essentially what it's going to be like. So there'll be two different options for people. I don't want to give you numbers. I'll give you sort of a ballpark, but I think it's going to be 20-ish K, 25K for the reference version, which I think if you have a discrete or a premier or a reference, you would go for that one. And then if you've got the select, you'd go for that one. That's probably going to be in the 30K range, but I don't have it memorized at this point in time. They did give us pricing. I just haven't memorized it. I want to get my hands on one. I want to test it. I want to plug a Lumen U2 Mini into it. I want to plug a Takeo into it. I want to plug in a render into it. I want to use a crappy cable. I want to use a gray cable. I want to try different things to see do they all sound the same, or are there still differences? Has it been elevated from just sticking it in the back of the DAC, which is the third thing that the director does. It eliminates that noise from the input module by putting it into a separate chassis. Do we hear any difference there? I mean, we've got to play with it, and it's an exciting product because it's a new product category. This is something nobody's done. It's out there, and we're really excited to get it in the store. I think we'll see it in September.
Yeah,
we're waiting on a couple things to play with. The Inuit statement, the new Inuit statement. We have a customer that got one. He loves it. So we're waiting to get that one into the store so we can play with it, do some shootouts, and also get the digital director in. We've got the new Clarisis audio speakers coming. We have some B&W 801D4s coming with 2 DB1D subwoofers for the store. What else have we been buying? You've been shopping, Mike. You've been spending money.
I mean, I can't help it.
You can't help it. You've been spending money. But we got things coming in all the time, so we keep it exciting. I don't think we have any amps coming in, do we?
Well, we just got the Hi-Fi Rose integrated.
Well,
but that's about it.
We have new block audios coming in because somebody stole them.
Yeah,
I took them home.
You did.
I couldn't survive without them. So I took the block audios home because they sound so good, and they're now in my home system. But we ordered another set for the store along with the block preamp as well. So
yeah, the blocks are incredible.
Yeah, once you hear it, you can't unhear it.
Exactly.
So I had to bring them home.
Yep, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Joel says thank you very much for the explanation. He said it was a great explanation.
Thank you.
Polymuse Gal is challenging me. She wants to know, why do I feel Kuzma is the best in general? And I'll just say straight up, I think first off, materials, QC. Their QC, I've never seen a turntable come from Kuzma that's had any issues.
Yep.
It's always dead on. Azimuth is always dead on, at least on the 4-point. On a unipivot, you have to adjust that on your own. But for the most part, everything's pretty set. The materials that they use, they're using brass. They're using thick pieces of brass that they machine themselves. It's a lot of R&D and a lot of time and just effort. Machining time, development time goes into these tables. And I think it doesn't matter where you start in their lineup. Like I said, another big thing with Kuzma is the modularity. The modularity is endless. Like me and Mike kind of alluded to that earlier. The modularity on the Stabi R, right?
Yep.
Yeah. The modularity on the Stabi R alone, you can do up to, technically, if you wanted to, you could do 4 arms on that table.
Yep.
It depends, but you could do 4 arms. You can buy the base version of the table, which is just a square.
Without the plinth.
Right, exactly.
And you could do 4 arms.
Correct. You have a platter, a stop and go button with a 33 and a 45 RPM, and then you can do there's so many different options with that table. And also their entry, the Stabi S. that is modular as well. You can change your tone arm whenever you want to something better, something, well, or whatever. You can get a 4-point, whatever you want. And now they have the Stogie S tone arm, which is their entry-level tone arm, with the VTA tower. So it's like the best of both worlds.
And they have their new arm as well.
Yeah, they just came out with a new arm.
Yep.
It's a personal thing for me. The materials that they use, I mean, it's a high mass concept for almost every one of their tables, if not all of their tables. Yeah. And then they use dampening with the tone arms and other very, very stuff that's even way above my head in the engineering. But, you know, when you look at their unipivot alone, it's genius.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The star of the show for Kuzma is the tone arms.
Sure.
The tables are incredibly engineered. One of the things that you'll notice, there's no squeaky wheel, there's no buzzing, humming, whirring, noise. It's dead nuts quiet. It's just like, I mean, you just start them and it's just silence, you know, and that's great. I mean, that's one of the things you look for. You want a lot of noise when you have a turntable. You want to kind of keep it as quiet as possible. So the Kuzmas are dead nuts quiet.
Yeah.
And the arms
are,
I mean, they're just ingenious.
Yep.
The way the adjustments, you can get them tweaked just right. Yeah, I totally agree. Without going goofy, I mean, you've got your Air Forces and you've got some crazy turntables out there. You know, the one I have at home, the Kronos. I mean, it's an amazing turntable. Don't get me wrong.
I'm talking for the money.
For the money, the Kuzma. I totally agree. You know, the Stabby M, the Stabby R. Even starting out the Stogie, you know, the Stabby with the Stogie arm. I mean, you just can't go wrong. I mean, they're really, really good. There's so many options that people have when you're putting it together. Not only options for which table, which arm, but options for which color you want the base to be, what you want the plinth to be. If you want to go with the plinth, you know, there's just a ton of even the wiring.
Yep.
In the arms, you can have crystal, you can have condo wiring, which we love the condo wiring, Cardus wiring.
And it's not just that. You can choose to have the wiring either all the way straight through to your phone
or at a junction box.
Or at a junction box.
Exactly. So tons of flexibility.
It's crazy.
It's a tweaker's dream.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So that's the kind of turntable you buy when you're a hardcore analog guy and you love the tweaking and you love all that kind of stuff and you want the best. That's a great turntable. If you're like, nah, I just want to listen to records, the Rigas are amazing. They're really, really good.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
I guess before we sign off, if anyone has any more questions, you have about probably 40 to 60 seconds to get them in. So go ahead. If not, we can start closing out.
Yeah. We appreciate everybody watching today. And, you know, we're hoping that this time frame works better for everybody. We can do it earlier in the day. We can do it later in the day, whatever works for people. We're hoping doing it starting at 4 o'clock Eastern that some folks on the West Coast would be able to chime in. So,
yeah, that was kind of the goal.
Yeah, but I mean, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, when we opened up, who did we have? We had even before we even started the stream, there was someone waiting, and it's Michael Freeland. Actually, he's in Finland.
Wow.
So he's just watching from Finland and asking questions, which is pretty cool.
I wonder if Mike's a hockey player like me. They got some good hockey players over in Finland.
Do they?
Yeah, they do. Yep.
So it looks like that's about. Oh wait, hang on. Someone says. Oh, okay. This is from Barbaric Nightmare.
Okay.
Barbaric Nightmare says, I saw a video on Inacoustic air insulated speaker wires. Do you think air insulation is the wave of the future? That's an interesting question, actually.
Well,
that would be a question for Rick.
That's a great Rick question. So I think if you wait till next week and log in, Rick will give you a 10-minute answer on that one. But I think he's going to likely say that it's a great dialectic and blah, blah, blah. And he'll get into all the technical reasons. But I think it is. I think it is. So Rick will be able to tell you the technical reasons of why it is.
In theory, air is the best dielectric.
Yeah. So he'll be able to tell you that.
Yeah, Rick will
give you a whole big rundown on it. Yeah.
All right. Well, it looks like that's about it. Everyone's saying thanks. Barbaric
Thank you,
Nightmare
guys.
says thanks.
Thanks
and
for watching.
By the way, I'll say it real quick. Barbaric Nightmare. We know Barbaric Nightmare.
Well, we don't admit it in public, do we?
Yeah, I don't think we admit it in public, but I think I want to admit it right here because he did, and I forgot in our very first episode, the person that runs Barbaric Nightmare. I guess I won't out him by his name.
Bill?
Bill, thank you very much for helping me set up this studio. Bill helped set up this studio, and we never actually thanked him. So I was waiting for the chance, and you actually made it happen. So thank you,
Bill and I have known each other for almost 20 years.
Have you really?
Yep. We've played hockey together for almost 20 years. We were on so many championship teams, and you can't find a better partner, or teammate. He was really, really good. We had so many. I mean, I remember if I was on the bench and he was skating, I was yelling at the top of my lungs for him. I was cheering him on.
Did you guys win the Stanley Keg together?
We did win the Stanley Keg together. Yep. Yeah. In the old man's league that we play in, we won the Stanley Keg league. I've been playing hockey for 50 years. This month, 50 years.
Wow.
My dad dropped me off at the arena when I was 4.
Wow.
Yeah. And I've been playing 50 years, nonstop.
Nonstop.
And I'm still alive to tell about it.
Yeah, and you don't miss a game.
No.
And now you're playing at what, 11 o'clock at night?
Yeah. Yeah, the kids get the old guys can't stay awake. We all have to have a nap. And we have something to eat, we have a nap, and then we wake up to go to the game, right? That's the way it works.
Yeah, Bill says, yeah, you're a better hockey player than him.
I don't know about that. I don't know. But anyway, well, thank you everybody for watching. Greatly appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you very much. We will see you in 2 weeks' time. Next week, be ready for the next episode of Mike and Rick.
I'm trying to get Vince. Well, actually, we're probably going to air the Nordos one, right?
We can if we want to. Yeah, we could do that. There's a few options.
Okay. All right. Okay. We'll keep you informed.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we just gave away. We just gave away some secrets there, Mike.
Well, that's okay. Yeah. Vince from MSB. I'm trying to get Vince from MSB to come on, talk about the digital director, talk about, the DAX and a variety of other things, because we did some shows on analog. We've talked a lot about analog, so I wanted to give the digital stuff. Oh, I do need to make one correction before we sign off. The Gigafoil is no longer made of lead.
Yes. This is very important, actually.
Very important. They were quite upset that I kept saying it was made of lead. It is not made of lead today. It was made of lead, but it's no longer made of lead, and so it's fine and safe and
to handle, and you don't have to wash your hands.
Go lick your fingers.
We were gonna do it. We forgot to grab the Gigafoil.
Yeah, we're gonna bring it insert lick. No, nobody would want to see that. No. But anyway, the Gigafoil, if you purchase one, they're no longer made of lead, and apparently they haven't been made of lead for like 2 years. But ours is probably 6 years old, so it's
it actually probably is made of lead.
It's probably made of lead. Yeah.
I was messing around with it today. Hopefully, I don't get lead poisoning.
Oh boy,
no
here
comment.
We go.
Never mind. I take that back. Okay.